Hello and welcome to my review of the Fellblade Super Heavy Battle Tank for Legiones Astartes for Warhammer the Horus Heresy from Games Workshop. Now this Fellblade will cost you £125 and it's the first time it's been released in plastic. We have to go all the way back to the first super heavy release in plastic, the Baneblade, which was released in late 2007. When that tank was released, it was £60. This Fellblade is £125. To put it in perspective, the Baneblade now is £5 cheaper. It's £120, and you can build multiple variants of the Baneblade in that kit. In this kit, you can only build the one. It would have been nice to have been able to build at least the glaive with the kit, but that's a pretty big ask. It would have required a larger box and also an extra sprue for the Volkite carronade. This model consists of 224 plastic components. The Baneblade consists of 381. So with the Baneblade, for £5 cheaper, you are getting 150 odd extra plastic components, and you can build 8 variants, 8 different kind of Baneblades in that kit. But as I say, that has been around for 18 years now. This is brand new for 2025, and I hope it's a sign of things to come, in that we will get a plastic glaive and we will get a plastic falchion, because they can definitely use this Fellblade's chassis sprues and sponsons with future variants. So the format of this review is as normal. I'll have a look at the Baneblade up close. I'll go through how easy it was to build, any options. We'll look at the spare parts, then I'll go through some size comparisons with a Baneblade and actually a Resin Fellblade and other Space Marine vehicle and other Legiones Astartes vehicles and other Legiones Astartes units. And then at the end, I'll go through all of its rules in the 3rd edition. So first things first then, let's have a look at this tank. It is a huge whopper of a tank. It's a super heavy tank. It's a Lord of War, meaning you can only take one in any Space Marine force, which does limit the number you can buy, I guess. But straight away, it is a must-buy kit. So any hesitation you have, try and subdue that. Even if you've got one in resin, which a few of you might have, definitely pick this kit up. It's that good. It won't take you as long as you might think. It's not a huge project. It's probably take a similar amount of time, maybe a bit less than like a Spartan or even a Kratos. And I was quite happy that it didn't take a massive amount of time. I think I built this in like 2 sittings. And of course it depends on what options and variants you go for. But it really is a fantastic kit, and I built it in the live streams. Supporter of the channel asked, which is better, this one or the resin kit? Well, considering you can no longer pick up the resin kit, I have to say this kit now, because it's all about the availability. But having both, they both have their positives and negatives. This positive is obviously the lightness. I'm holding it with one hand, and yeah, it's plastic. It's quite easy to work with. Everybody's experienced plastic with troops and other vehicles and things. Don't let the size of this intimidate you. If you've never built a kit this big, just think of it as like a Rhino or a Kratos, but just a little bit bigger. The parts are just a bit bigger. The sponsons are the same as like on the Land Raider. The turret probably consists of a few less parts or similar number of parts as like a Kratos tank. The engine stack is very similar to the Land Raider. The The tracks are fine, they go together quite well. There are some mold lines which are, you know, one of the most time consuming parts. And with this tank you do receive a proper base for it as well, quite detailed, and I do like the detail of this tank. You know, everything from the rivets to the doors to the usability. So let me just talk about a few of those points. So first things first, we'll talk about Sponssons in a moment, but you've got this demolisher cannon, this sort of hull mounted demolisher cannon, which kind of stays in place if you kind of jam it in areas, but normally it will just, you know, it's either level or it's at an angle, and if it's at an angle, elevated, it's going to get in the way of your cannons. Speaking of which, I do like the turret. You know, you can rotate it up to the fuel barrels. One thing I will say is the kit tells you to put the smoke launchers on the top, and it does look better with the smoke launchers on the top. There's no doubt about that. But if you put them on the top, if your cannons are this elevation, which is a slight elevation, they are going to rub against it. You know, my elevation is kind of level, it's a little bit raised, but if you raise them a bit more, then that might not. So yeah, even though it shows that the smoke launchers on the top, that's where they should go, the elevation, if you have it like a slightly raised elevation, it's going to hit the smoke launchers unless you have it at a much higher elevation. And you know, you might be fine with that if you just want your turret to sort of go there or there. But what I will say is you can take the turret off, but it requires like a lock-on 90-degree angle, because that's where these plugs are. So you're either going to have your turret raised, have these smoke launchers in a different position, or not have them at all to be able to take the turret off. But that's quite cool that you can take the turret off. You know, it does lend itself to a glaive or another variant if they create another variant, and then you can just swap the turrets off and then you can have the same setup. So I do like that. You've got the hull mounted centerline heavy bolters there, which you can replace with heavy flamers. Don't really see the point of that. And also it would have been nice to give you the option of like las cannons or las talons or plasma guns, or I don't know, something else other than just those two. The doors, which is very important, there are only I say 4 ways of getting into the tank. It looks like either through the hatches, the top cupolas, which are, it's problematic, especially if you're wearing power armor. I don't know how they do it, but the other 2 entryways are these doors, and they are exactly the same size as Rhino doors. Because if you've got any Legion specific Rhino doors, which you can still get from Games Workshop, these are the resin ones, they fit in there perfectly. So yes, if you've got some of those lying around, or you've got some on your Rhinos, or you want to just buy some, then they fit with this tank, which is fantastic. And they didn't have to do that, but they did. The final area of the tank I'd like to promote and say positive things about are the sponsons themselves. So this is the first time we've had plastic like quad heavy bolter batteries. Amazing. Very, very cool. This now means that you can put these on a Land Raider, and that brings me on to the Land Raider's las cannons. So this is a las cannon array from Land Raider Spartan, and yes, it's true, you can just hot swap and put your Land Raider Sponsson weapons, or any Sponsson weapons, onto these new plastic Fellblades, or these new plastic super heavy tanks. And yes, also what that means is in the set you get 3. You get the las cannons, the heavy bolters, and you get the brand new in plastic laser destroyers. Now, there is a caveat to this, is that you can only pick 2 options. By that I mean either the heavy bolters and the laser destroyers, or the heavy bolters and the las cannons, or the las cannons and the laser destroyers. So you can only pick two, and the reason because of that is primarily this top bit and the support itself. You only get 4 of these supports, and you only get 4 of these top targeters and things. So this is from the Land Raider, but these 2 or 4, I guess, are from this kit. So yeah, choose wisely, really. But if you've got a Land Raider Spartan and you're not going to use it in your game, and you're going to use the Fellblade, you can just throw the las cannons on this tank. I've got multiple Land Raiders and things, so that is the reason why I've gone for these new weapons. With like the glaive and the falchion, I'll probably go for las cannons and the laser destroyers and just disregard these heavy bolters. But yeah, that does mean, as I say, you can equip Land Raiders with these cool looking heavy bolter batteries. So we're almost there for Land Raider. Is it Proteus, I think it was, with the multiple heavy bolters? You know, maybe there are still rules out there for it, but I think that looks very, very cool. And I'm a big fan of being able to swap Sponsson weapons, around for different vehicles. So that leads me on to the spare parts of this tank. Of course, you'll have either las cannons or laser destroyers as your extra weapons. You'll have, well, I've got these, I've got the heavy flamers, and I've also got the pintle mounted heavy bolter. I was debating whether or not to go for the heavy bolter, and I think the heavy bolter would have, looked better on it. But in the end, I just went for a multi-melter because the range of those cannons is like 100 inches. I wanted the multi-melter to give me something a bit more close range that was high strength and anti-armor, especially if I'm going for heavy bolters. And I think the multi-melter complements the laser destroyers as well, for anything that gets in within, sort of 36 inches. You're also going to be left with, of course, the las cannons, which you would need the targeters and the actual Sponsson mounts as well, to make use of them. But yeah, so they're spare. And then the vehicle accessory sprue, of which I hardly used anything. You're not really going to use the dozer blade, which is far too small, and possibly the Kratos dozer blade would look good or might be compatible with this. I'm not sure. You've got the Havoc launcher, you've got the heavy flamer, you've got the hunter killer, you've got all the combi weapons, you've got the tank commander and the bit of the crew there with Space Marines and helmeted head and helmetless heads. So yeah, it's your usual vehicle accessory sprue that came out 4 years ago in 2021. So they're your spare parts. Not a huge number. Okay, the moment you've all been waiting for then, size comparisons. We'll start off the size comparisons with the Resin Fellblade, and we might as well do a little bit of a comparison with the Resin Fellblade right now. So as you can see, the Resin Fellblade looks a little bit bigger. Maybe the height is a little bit bigger, maybe the turret is a bit taller. It just looks a bit bigger. That's all. Maybe the tracks, I don't know what it is, but it just looks bigger. The Demolisher cannon does come out a fair bit. In the grand scheme of things, probably the same as the plastic Demolisher cannon, but it just doesn't have that extra kind of shunt or cowling. The heavy bolters move the same. You've got your sponsons, which are magnetized in my case. That's so that I can, for transport and also moving the cannons up and down. But that does mean that, unless I wanted to magnetize those, which I don't see any point, I can't hot swap them with the new vehicle. The turret just pops off like that, and it's quite a big, beefy turret. There are subtle differences in the top there, like it has this extra thing here, and the lens area doesn't have this top cowling on. It didn't come with any pintle weapons, but I suppose I could now that I've got the heavy bolter. I could put the heavy bolter on the top there. Smoke launchers as well, no smoke launchers. The barrels at the back are different. If we just turn them around, the engine stack is similar. I would probably say that the exhausts are taller in the older kit. As you can see, the drum barrels or the fuel barrels, they look like your regular, you know, old plastic or fuel drums, whereas the new ones look different. They look newer, I guess, a bit more modern. Also, there's a skull icon there in the engine stack, and there's some extra bits of detail and cooling. The doors are also different. These doors are more akin to like a Mars pattern Rhino. They're the same size doors as a, I say newer Rhino, but not the Deimos pattern Rhino, whereas the new plastic Fellblade has the like Deimos pattern Rhino doors. So there's that difference. It's still got this thing on the top, and this lens, but the firing lens is a bit different. There's also differences in detail on the top there in that valley, and also the newer tank has the wheel axle caps kind of showing through the armour, whereas the older tank doesn't. And also the turret itself, the muzzles look different. This definitely has more of a break to it than the older kit, but there's still the same braces and there's still the same recoil compensators. I don't know which I prefer. I kind of preferred this kind of flared muzzle brake for the cannons instead of this sort of smoother brake, I guess. There's probably still a fair few differences that I haven't mentioned, but they're going to look similar on the tabletop, but definitely looks wise I prefer the newer one. That's mainly because the aesthetics match all of the other newer tanks as well. Next to another super heavy, so this time the Baneblade, which I spoke about earlier in the beginning of the video. This is the Baneblade. It is a bit dusty and things, but never mind. It's odd, the Baneblade kind of looks bigger because it has this extra platform, but the cannon is way smaller. I'm getting Malcador type vibes from it as that tank. I think that the Fellblade is longer. It's a longer tank and it's very similar width, but the Baneblade is a bit taller because of this kind of smaller turret and a smaller cannon on top of this platform, whereas the Fellblade doesn't have that platform at all. It just goes straight from the chassis to the turret. And of course the heavy bolters, they have their own separate like armor space here, whereas they're kind of hidden on the Fellblade. Also the Demolisher cannon looks almost identical to the one on the Resin Fellblade. Another point to make is all of the tracks are pretty much covered with this armor plating, whereas the Fellblade plastic one doesn't have that at all. You've got a name badge there as well, which the Fellblade doesn't have. Maybe you probably could find one and put one on there. But yeah, if you were trying to think of which tank is bigger, they're very similar. The Baneblade is a bit taller, but more boxy, whereas the Fellblade is your typical Space Marine, kind of more streamlined, more futuristic, more sci-fi, I guess, rather than this kind of like traditional one where you've got the sponsons that are hanging out the side with these extra kind of turrets as well, plonked on top. But yeah, I hope that's sort of helped you decide. I don't know whether you can still use Baneblades in Space Marine armies. You used to be able to. You used to be able to use Legiones Astartes Baneblades, but yeah, I think they've changed that in the newer rules. Then we'll talk about a mini or baby Fellblade, which is the Kratos. Now this tank came out in 2nd edition 3 years ago or so. I think it was 2022. And this is the tank that, we kind of thought would be the Fellblade, but it didn't quite work out. It's It's almost like a Predator, but like a dedicated battle tank. It's a fair bit smaller. I'd probably say a third of the size, maybe. It's definitely a cross between a Fellblade and a Sicaran and a Predator. You know, it's got the Predator-sized sponsons, and then it's got these extra little turrets as well, and then it's got a main cannon, a combi weapon, and then a coaxial weapon as well. It's a bit all over the place. I think it suffers a little bit of kind of Primarisified, where they sort of throw a load of weapons at a tank, as many as they can. Much prefer the look of the Fellblade, but that's where it stands next to a Fellblade. And then we've got another tank, the Sicaran, which, yeah, that's where Sicaran measures up. And these are sort of medium tanks. These aren't like light tanks, but they are fast. And yeah, so Fellblade's just huge compared to it. And then, of course, we've got a Rhino as well. Rhino's absolutely dwarfed by this Fellblade. Probably almost 2, definitely with the sponsons, you can say almost 2. And then lengthwise, I'd say 1, easily 2 length and almost 2 width. Yeah, of a Rhino. And then height-wise, almost 2, probably about a tank and a half height. So yeah, that's where the Fellblade stands. I mean, it's a super heavy tank, one of the largest tanks that Space Marines have. So compared to some Saturnine minis then, we'll start off with the big boy, and that is the Saturnine Dreadnought, which is the largest Dreadnought in existence, apparently, and it's sort of small compared to this tank. I mean, height-wise, it's not. But definitely like the bulk and things, it is a bit dwarfed. Then there's your Saturnine Terminator as well. We've got Mark II, and then we've got the cannon, the quad cannon platform, the Arachne. It's huge. Well, its base is huge, but that just gives you an idea. Could you at a push? Maybe you could modify it, possibly. The hole's too big for this to sit in. But it's possible. Maybe you could do that. But yeah. Does the old Fellblade turret fit? No, it doesn't, unfortunately. Does the Sicaran? Kind of. But again, the hole's a bit too big. As the Kratos, again, the hole is way too big for a Kratos turret. So just giving you a different perspective there of the size of like a Mark II next to this Fellblade. I've also got some other minis. So I've got the Mark VI and new Mark III. That's where they stand. So this tank just dwarfs so many things. And then finally, the last comparison I like to make is just with some 40k minis. So we do have a Space Marine, Slime Marvo, and a Primaris. So yeah, I don't think you can use this with Primaris at all because it's Horus Heresy, but gives you an idea of how big Primaris are next to a super heavy tank. Okay, so this is my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules for the Fellblade Super Heavy Battle Tank. You'll find it in the Lords of War section, along with the Cerberus Heavy Tank Destroyer, Typhon Heavy Siege Tank, Glaive Super Heavy Tank, Falchion Super Heavy Tank, Thunderhawk Gunships, Sokar Python Stormbird, and Mastodon Super Heavy Assault Transport. So there's a few choices in Lords of War, and you know, especially now that you can't really pick the Typhon or the Cerberus as legitimate choices. And what I mean by that is just a previous edition ago, in second edition, you could have 2 Typhons in a squadron. Now you can only pick 1, so it really is not a choice of 2 Typhons or 2 Cerberus or a Fellblade. It is just one of those, or a Fellblade, or any of the other options. But anyway, this Fellblade Super Heavy tank, all of the Super Heavy tanks, these 3, are all exactly the same points cost. So it doesn't matter what flavour you go for, anti-infantry, anti-armour, or this all-around Fellblade, they all cost 650 points. Their stat lines are all exactly the same as well. Armour that is not as good as a Land Raider. So their movement speed is 10 inches, ballistic skill is 4, front armour is 14, side is 13, rear 12 with 18 hull points. Now you compare that to a Land Raider Spartan. Land Raider Spartan has armour 14 all the way around, and it has 10 hull points. So yes, it has 8 hull points fewer. So yes, this Fellblade has 8 hull points more, but it does have 2 worse armour on the rear and 1 worse on the sides. Compared to the Kratos assault tank, even the Kratos has better armour. It has basically the same armour as a Land Raider Spartan, 14 all round with 10 hull points. So what are you getting with this Fellblade Super Heavy tank for 650 points? Well, you're getting a turret-mounted Fellblade accelerator cannon, a hull-mounted twin heavy bolter, a hull-mounted demolisher cannon, and then 2 Sponsson-mounted las cannon arrays. The model may have its hull-mounted twin heavy bolter exchanged for 1 hull-mounted twin heavy flamer for free, and the model may have both Sponsson las cannon arrays exchanged for one of the following: 2 Sponsson mounted laser destroyers for free, or 2 Sponsson mounted Gravis heavy bolter batteries. The model may have 1 item from the Legion pintle mounted weapons list selected for it, which is a pintle mounted combi bolter for 5 points, combi flamer for 10, combi plasma for 10, combi melter for 10, combi volkite for 10, havoc launcher for 5, heavy bolter for 10, heavy flamer for 10, or what mine's equipped with, which is a multi-melter for 25 points. The model may have 1 of each of the following selected for it: 1 hull-mounted Hunter killer missile for 5 points, or searchlights for 5 points. What do these weapons do? We'll start off with the big daddy of these weapons, and that is the Fellblade accelerator cannon. The clue is in the name. It's a named weapon, so that means only the Fellblade has this weapon. In fact, each of these super heavy tanks, these Fellblade variants, have their own specific named weapon as well. But this Fellblade accelerator cannon is straight up 100-inch range. It has a HE shell. I'm assuming that's high explosive shell. That's firepower 1, so 1 shot, unfortunately. Strength of 8, AP 3, damage 2, blast 5-inch, stun 2. So that's great. That's your 5-inch blast marker, so your old ordnance marker, 1 shot, and it's AP 3, so it's just blowing good chunks of Space Marines out of the battle. And also it's nice that it's 100-inch range, because yeah, you can sit at 50 inches away and decimate half squads of 10 destroyer squads with las cannons and things if you want. That's one of the main key points about this tank, is that 100-inch range cannon. It's rare that we get cannons that are that huge range, so basically make the most of it. The AE shell, which is again 100-inch range, firepower 1, so 1 shot. This time its strength is 12, its AP is 2, its damage is 3, but it's a smaller blast marker, it's only 3 inches, and it's ordnance D. So that would be better against some Saturnine Terminators, or against Terminators that are just out in the open, and it's also good against armour. Yes, it's only got 1 shot, and you are going to be hitting on 3+, but if it does hit, it's going to do a fair bit of damage, and strength 14 is pretty decent too. The other weapons, of course, it's got the pintle mounted multi-melter, which is a range 24-inch, 1 shot, strength 8, AP 2, damage 3, and it's melter 8. The heavy bolters, now it's called a twin heavy bolter, which has a slightly different profile than the heavy bolter. All that's different is that it's just got double the shots. So it's not twin linked, it's just got straight up 6 shots at its range 36 inch, strength 5, AP4, damage 1. And then you've got all the Sponsson weapons. So this is kind of a new Sponsson weapon for the Fellblade, in plastic form that is, and that is the Gravis Heavy Bolter Battery. It's got its own profile. It's still the range of normal heavy bolters, which is 36 inches. Its strength is still 6. And yeah, for some reason it's got 8 shots instead of 12. Yeah, they need to retcon that and put 12, because there are literally 4 heavy bolters. There should be 4 times 3, 12, not 8. Anyway, it's got 8 shots. Strength is 5, AP 4, damage 1, and it's got suppressive 2, which normal heavy bolters don't have. So you've got 2 Gravis heavy bolter batteries, which would be 16 shots. Still nothing to sniff at, but be better if it was 24 shots. Then you've got the las cannon arrays, which is range 48 inches, 2 shots, strength 9, AP 2, damage 3, and an armor bane, which is all right. You know, you're getting 4 las cannon shots. It's exactly the same as like on a Spartan Land Raider. And then the final weapon, which first time we've seen it in plastic, well, other than the rapier battery, of course, is the laser destroyers. Now it just says 2 laser destroyers, so I'm a bit bummed by that, because, you know, there's 4 of them, and again, 36 inch range, there's always been the trade-off. You've had a higher strength with these laser destroyers, but you had to forgo 12 inches. So it's whether or not you think that's worth it to go down to heavy bolter range for a las weapon, but increase the strength to 10. And also lower the damage as well. So would you prefer a strength 9 las cannon weapon at 48 inch range, but damage 3, or you go for 36 inch las weapon, you go for the 36 inch laser destroyer at a better strength of 10, same AP, but lower the damage to 2. You're getting heavy D, and you are still getting armor bane, so there is that. But yeah, I think for most circumstances, I'd go for the las cannon array over any of those options, unless I was going against a infantry heavy Solar Auxilia force, which, let's face it, would be quite rare. They're going to be using a lot of tanks. And there you go. That is my review of the Fellblade. I mentioned at the very start of the review video, there's no reason for you to be on the fence on this one. It is a must-buy kit. 10 out of 10 for me. The only slight addition I'd have to this kit is to include the glaive turret, but that's an extra sprue, and that would be an extra 10, well, 15 quid, let's say. So that would already be running this tank at 140, which of course is a lot less than the Resin Fellblade when that was out recently, like a year or 2 ago. That was still £200. So with a discount, you could pick one of these up for about 100. Again, classic plastic Horus Heresy. You can be picking up double the amount of these plastic Horus Heresy kits compared to their resin counterparts, but they typically take 3 to 4 times the amount of time to build. Yes, plastic's easy to work with, but there are a lot more mold lines, a lot more parts to clean up and put together and things. But they do give you options like the incredible Sponssons. My closing remarks are that with a lot of these plastic Horus Heresy kits, I'm really intrigued to see how they use these sprues in their future kits. And I would definitely put money on plastic glaive and potentially plastic falchion being released in future. They've got the blueprints now. This is what I said about the Spartan. This is what I said about the Predator tanks. I said that they would make many more different variants and things, and they have done. They brought out the Scorpius. They then brought out the Sakaran. I think they've been a bit relaxed with the Sakaran template, though. They've only brought out 2 different Sakarans with that. But the Land Raiders, they brought out the Cerberus and the Typhon. Hopefully, with the release of this Fellblade, they'll bring out the glaive and falchion at some point. But what do you guys think of the Fellblade Super Heavy Battle Tank for Legiones Astartes? This has been my favourite release of the year. I haven't built a big tank for ages, and I was so hyped for getting this, and I'm very pleased I was able to bring it to the channel for you all. Please do put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.